The other thing is take full responsibility for your life. Accept where you are and the responsibility that you're going to take yourself where you want to go. Someone said we have two primary choices in life. We can either accept conditions as they exist, or we can take the responsibility to change them. See, a lot of people want to exempt themselves from taking responsibility. All they want to do is talk about the problem. Every time you see them, they'll tell you their story over and over and over and over again. No, no. You want to take responsibility for your life. I got me here, I can get me out of this. And I'm getting out. I'm not going to be a volunteer victim. George Bernard Shaw said there are two kinds of people in life. You know, he said those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that don't know what happened. And he said the people that get along in this life look around for the circumstances that they want, and if they can't find them, they make them. They create them. So part of beginning to get unstuck, you've got to decide that the behavior pattern that you have adopted doesn't work for you. You've got to change your strategies, and changing your strategy means reinventing your life. Recreating you, and you have the power to do that. You can decide that you're going to change, that you're not going to be a wimp. You can decide that you're going to stand up to life. You can decide that I'm going to live each day as if it were my last. You have the power to make that decision. You can decide I'm going to work on myself and develop myself. I'm going to empower me. And all of these things that are happening to me right now, they're just temporary inconveniences. They're not stronger than I am. I'm in charge here. Next thing is separate what you do from who you are. That's what the guilt trap is about. See, a lot of folk won't let you forget what you used to do or what you have done, what mistakes you've made. All of us have made some mistakes in life. All of us have done some things that if we had them to do over again, we wouldn't do it again. There are a lot of things that if I had it to do over again, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done it differently. Well, it didn't happen that way. And that's what you call life. I didn't do it like that. Oh, you don't want me to live that down, huh? You want to keep on putting that in my face about what I did. Guess what? I'm not interested. That's what I did then. Won't do it today, so you are picking on an innocent man. Hello. So as you're in the process of reinventing your life, write a description of the kind of person that you want to be. What are the things that you must overcome? What qualities about your personality you know that you're going to have to change because those particular characteristics are liabilities to you? What are your assets? What are your strong points? Look at and evaluating yourself to make that determination. Other thing is that in order to get out of a rut, we need some coaching. Find some trusted critics. People that you know care about you and love you. So there's some things that keeps us from growing and getting out of ruts. Number one, we identify with feedback. We take it personal when someone wants to give us some feedback on where we are falling short and tell us about our blind spots. We want to have everything being positive about us. We're not perfect. It hurts. I have a friend who's a trusted critic. I don't like him, but I love him. He doesn't tell me the things I want to hear. He tells me what I need to hear so I can grow. It hurts. It hurts when he put me on the hot seat. I can't stand it. But that's the only way that I can grow. And I'm glad that he loves me enough to risk our friendship to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. Get a support group, somebody that you can talk to. People who perhaps might have a similar problem. Support groups are very powerful, that you can share some of the challenges that you're going through. And it might be a situation where one person can give you an idea of how they handle that situation and create an opening for you. Begin to stimulate some possibilities in your mind on how you can resolve the problem. We can't grow by ourselves. As I mentioned before, we grow from people and projects. The other thing is about life, when things happen to you, when you permit things to use you, you can't change the past, but you can interpret. You can reinterpret how you see it. For years, I was going around with a heavy load on my shoulders, feeling bad because I was adopted, doing interviews for adoption agencies and foster homes. And I was on television once, and I told these people in this particular interview that I was given away, my twin brother and I, when we were 6 weeks of age. A friend of mine, fortunately, was listening to the program. And she said, Les, I'd like to have lunch with you. And so I went over to see her. She said, when a woman carries a baby for 9 months, feeling that life movement in her, it's automatic and natural for her to learn to love that baby, to expect it to come here when she bears the pain to bring it into the world. Your mother, Mamie Brown, when she came in to adopt you guys, she didn't go through that process. She looked at whoever your biological mother was and said, I'll take her. You weren't given away less, you were chosen with love. Now here's how I want you to write this down. Write down, take responsibility for your life. Take responsibility for your life. Now that's very important. Remember what Bishop said last night about Adam? Adam, when God asked him what happened, Adam did not want to take responsibility for what he had done. Men have always tried to escape that. Now, you know that we believe a lot in marches. Let me tell you something. Here's a march I like to enroll you on. I want 1 million men to march to a mailbox to give support payments. Just drop some support payments in the mailbox to children that you have helped to create, that you have been irresponsible and you're not taking care of. Don't give that money to the airlines or the bus stations or the hotels. Send that money to those mothers that are still there dealing with and raising those children. Own your stuff. Come here, owner. Where's my daughter? Come here, owner. I got a call 5 years ago from this person here. I happened to be at the office late at night. See, I believe in being open and being honest with you. And the call was, tell them what you said to me.
I said, if you had a child in this world that you were unaware of, a descendant in this world that you were unaware of, would you or would you not want to know?
What did I say?
You said, yes, I would want to know.
So I told her I wanted to know. And I said, send me some pictures. She sent me some pictures overnight. I saw this smile. I said, that's mine. Sent one of my sons to pick her up. He drove her from Columbus to Detroit. He came in first and said, Daddy, my sister's right behind me. And we've been together ever since. And I'm not ashamed of her. I can't unscramble these eggs and don't want to. But I have to take responsibility that this is my daughter. And I take care of my daughter. Ain't she gorgeous? I'm trying to fatten her up. She got little legs. I'm trying to find a husband while we're here. Got legs so small you can sue him for non-support. That's why she's wearing pants. Well, okay, thank you, baby. Give her a round of applause, all right? Now, so the reason I'm telling you that we got to start owning our stuff as men. Don't make no big deal. Can you imagine what will happen if 1 million men decide to go to the mailbox and just unexpectedly drop just what you can? Don't have to have a return address in case they're looking for you. You don't have to put that on there. If you real behind, you understand what I'm talking about? I ain't say be no fool now. Now, the only reason I can put a return address on this because I have an MBA. Somebody say, I got you. I say, you don't have a college degree. I don't. The MBA stands for mega bank account. So anyhow, join me, man. Don't tell me, well, I don't like her. She got an old man, or she don't need my money, or the children don't look like me. I went to court in the fraternity suit with a friend of mine named Ronnie. And he went to the judge. The judge said, why aren't you paying child support? He said, the babies don't look like me. The judge said, well, feed them till they do. But as men, see, we can't teach our sons to be responsible if they don't see us being responsible, if they don't feel that we care. So don't say, well, I don't have it. Get it. That doesn't let you off the hook. Write down the next R. And that is not only responsibility, but be resourceful. A lot of men, I don't have it. I had it, I'll give it. If the women had that kind of attitude, the children would starve to death. The reason that they eat, the reason that they have some place to stay and to lay their heads and have clothes on their backs, because the women decide, I'm going to make it happen no matter what, and they're resourceful. My mama raised 7 without a man. She cooked. She cleaned houses. Here's something else that will cause you to reach your goals when you leave here. Write this down. Reasons, compelling reasons. While you're here, when you make this covenant with God, when you decide to live like a conqueror, when you decide to become more successful, to create wealth, to be a change agent in your community, what is it that can keep you on the straight and narrow, that will cause you to keep your commitment to your commitment? I used to do door-to-door sales with a man named Sam Axelrod. Sam Axelrod was intrigued by me because when he came to pick me up, he didn't have to blow his horn. I was downstairs waiting for Sam when he came around the corner. And unlike the men that work with him and other young people, when it got dark and Sam blew the horn, everybody ran to the station wagon. And they would do a head count. And they'd say, who's here? So everybody's here except Les. And they say, hey, Les, come on. No, I'm not coming, Sam. Why? I haven't sold anything. No one's sold anything, Les. It's a long run from Liberty City to Overtown. You got to pass the 20th Street Sharks and the 14th Street Gang. The jitneys will stop running soon. I can't stop, Sam, until I sell something. See, my reason for going door to door is different than everybody else. Most people out there are trying to make some extra money to party on the weekend, or to buy a new outfit, or a new bicycle. The reason that I was working was to take care of my mama. The reason that I was working is because I was working on Miami Beach with my mother. And she was working for a family called the Sidursky family. And one day when I was outside raking the yard, I came in, and my mother was on the floor, on her knees, cleaning up some grease spots that Mrs. Sidursky had spilt some grease. My mother was 56 at the time. She adopted us when she was 40. And I came in, my mother had arthritis in her knees. And I could hear her moaning at different times when she moved on her knees on this hard linoleum floor. And I said, Mrs. Sidursky, can I do that for my mother and you can have her do something else? She said, if it's all right with Mamie. And my mother said, no, son, that's all right. I said, no, Mama, it's not all right. I don't want you on your knees, Mama. Please let me do it, baby. And I helped my mother up. And Mrs. Sidursky said, Mamie, go in the other room and find that hat I was looking for earlier. And my mother went in the other room, and I heard her clapping her hands. I said, Mama. She said, what, boy? I said, baby, why are you clapping your hands? She said, don't worry, just keep on doing what you're doing. Then after a while, Mrs. Sidursky said, Mamie, maybe it's in the other room. Go look in there. Mama went in the other room, and sure enough, she started clapping her hands again, Bishop. I said, Mama, why are you clapping your hands? She said, didn't I tell you to pay attention to what you're doing? Then at that moment, Mrs. Swiderski came over. She said, I can tell you why she's clapping her hands. I said, why, ma'am? She said, well, because when I have domestic workers looking for something and they're out of my view, I make them clap their hands to make sure that they're not stealing. I put the scrub brush down and I stood up. I said, excuse me, Mrs. Swiderski. I don't mean any disrespect, ma'am. My mother raised us to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. But my mother's a Christian. She would never steal from you or anyone. When my mama talk about your children, when she talks to her friends, she say, my children, the Swiderski children. She loves you and your husband and your children. She would never steal from you. And she just walked away. Later that evening, when we were riding across the Venetian Causeway, I was very quiet. And my mother noticed it. I was not my bubbly self. She said, what's wrong, son? I said, Mama, I wish I was a man. She said, boy, you're 16 years old. You'll be a man soon enough. I said, no, Mama. I want to be a man now, because if I was a man, right now, we would never have to wear somebody else's hand-me-down clothes that their children no longer want. I'll be able to buy clothes for my brothers and sisters and you. If I was a man, we would never have to eat anybody's leftover food that you cooked for, because I'll be able to buy us groceries if I was a man. If I was a man, Mama, no one would ever have you on your knees cleaning up grease that they spill. And nobody would ever make you clap your hands because they think that you're stealing. If I was a man, Mama, I'll take care of you. She said, Mrs. Swiderski told you that, didn't she? I said, yes, ma'am. So I was a man, you would never cook for anybody but me. My mama used to fix a kind of sweet potato pie that you couldn't eat with your shoes on. You had to take your shoes off so you can wiggle your toes. And when we would go door to door, sometimes as late as 10 o'clock at night, I would knock on the door. Who's there? Would you like to buy a nice working television set? No money down? Boy, are you crazy? Yes, I am crazy. I'm crazy about my mama, and I'm going to take care of her. And I'm going to sell a television set tonight, and it might as well be you. And after a while, somebody would say, come on in there, boy, and that better be a good set. What are the reasons? Write down while you're here at this Manpower Conference. Write down 5 compelling reasons of why you're going to keep your commitment to change your life. Keep your commitment never to go back to the life that you once lived. Keep your commitment to creating wealth for yourself, to taking care of your children, to be more responsible, to manifest Christ in you, in your life, in your community. Keep your commitment to live a life of contribution, to keep your commitment to be a conqueror, and to act like it, and to have authority and dominion over everything in your life. What are those reasons? I got on one of my tapes, if life knocked you down, try and land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. Your reasons will help you to get back up again. They'll be your rod and staff to comfort you. So you got to write down 5 reasons. On everything that Bishop is saying, and Bishop Merritt, and all the different speakers, and the relationship seminar that Brother Lewis Greenup will do, how you will incorporate the principles from this Manpower Conference in your life and live them and manifest them and support them.
So, many people in Finland right now want to know a little bit about you.
Yes.
And I know that many also know about you already. But can you tell us your story in a short?
Well, I was born in a poor section in the United States of Miami, Florida, called Liberty City, an abandoned building on a floor with a twin brother. And when we were 6 weeks of age, we were adopted. And when I was in the 5th grade, I was identified as EMR labeled educable mentally retarded put back from the 5th grade to the 4th grade, and I failed again when I was in the 8th grade. I don't have any college education, but because of my mother, and I feel like Abraham Lincoln, who said, "All that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother." She inspired me to want to achieve more and to do more and to provide for her, because of the fact that she adopted altogether not only myself and twin brother, but also 5 other children. And so when I look at my life and my story, my mother worked on Miami Beach as a domestic worker, and we ate the food left over from the families that she cooked for, and we wore the hand-me-down clothes of the children that she kept. And I used to say to her, working in these big beautiful homes, I said, "Mama," and she said, "What is it?" I said, "One day I'm gonna buy you a big beautiful home just like this." And I did do that. And so because of her example, because of her unstoppable spirit and her faith, I contribute that to being who I am now, to making me become the person that I have become.
What has your mission in life been, or what is it?
My mission in life has been, and still is to give people a vision of themselves beyond their mental conditioning and their circumstances, to let them know that they have greatness within them. But greatness, it's not our destiny. It's a choice that you have to make every day. You have to put yourself in a state of perpetual discomfort in order to manifest your greatness. You've got to reach outside of your comfort zone. So every day I look forward to the opportunity to inspire people to reach higher, to understand and know that what they've done is only a tip of the iceberg of what's possible for them.
Yeah, I remember you saying that in the first audio program I ever had.
Yes, that you have greatness within you, and to prove it that you were chosen 1 out of 400 million sperms. Yes.
First big victory.
Yes.
Talk about how these people can develop their story, or let them know, because I know that there's a lot of people here, and we have probably 50 different countries around the world that watch this, and a lot of them aren't aware of you yet.
Yes.
But they need to be, right? They need to know about your products and services and coaching and all that stuff, and we'll talk about that. Your story, what was the defining moment, that turning point for you that set your life on a different course?
Well, what set my life on a different course was when my mother became ill. Because I was a state legislator in Columbus, Ohio. I'm adopted. I was born in a poor section of Miami, Florida called Liberty City, an abandoned building on a floor with a twin brother. I'm telling you my story. And when we were 6 weeks of age, we were adopted by Mrs. Mamie Brown. I feel like Abraham Lincoln, who said, "All that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother." My mother was a domestic worker on Miami Beach. She cooked for families. We ate the food left over from the families that she cooked for. We wore the hand-me-down clothes of the children that Mama kept. And so as a child and goal, a turning point in my life was seeing my mother work so hard. I said, Eric, when I become a man, I want to take care of my mother. I want to ask you, is there someone that you want to take care of? Is there someone that you'd like to do something special for? I want you to think about that person right now. Now, what I've done by doing that, I have segued from my story. I have now brought them into the story, and I asked them, is there someone you want to do something special for? They're saying yes. Now, that is called an imaginative leap. They leap from my story into their own story and say, yes, I know somebody. I like to do something for my coach or for my minister or for my mother or for my father or an aunt that raised me, okay? So now they're in the story. Now I will tell them how I went about doing that. So they have an interest. Who are you? What do you have? I have a story on how I bought my mother a home. And why should I care? The reason you should care is that I've been very successful at doing something that you can do too. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So now you create a committed listening in the telling of the story. Or I can say, recently I went to a seminar. A young lady by the name of Pauline Ahi, she came to the seminar. Pauline flew from Hawaii to Los Angeles. I was very inspired as I watched her. And the reason I was inspired, here we were in a room of entrepreneurs, and the person standing in front of the room, Dr. Julie Van Putten, as she was speaking and talking about discovering your power voice, ever so often Pauline would lean forward and she'd pick up a pen with her mouth and she would write with her mouth. Pauline came from Hawaii. Pauline has no arms. Pauline has no legs. She writes with her mouth. Here's a person who decided to become an entrepreneur, who decided to build a business in multi-level marketing, and with no arms and no legs, she's building an organization. And one of the things that really got me when Dr. Julie Van Putten interviewed Pauline, she asked her, tell me one major obstacle you had in your life. Tell me something you can think of. And Pauline looked, and she thought, and she said, I can't think of anything. And that grabbed me, because I could have given a whole lot of things, a list of obstacles. And that showed me that Elsie Robinson was right when he said things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. Even though she was born with no arms and no legs, what has happened in her that she sees herself as an empowered person. She has not decided to become a part of a job, the journey of the broke. She decided to control her own destiny by being involved in multi-level marketing. And what I said as I looked at her, if Pauline can do it, I know I can do it. And I know you can do it. Okay. So there's a
How many more you got? Keep going.
Yeah. So those examples, I mean, Mike Jones out of Philadelphia. I met him. Mike was earning $500 a month on Social Security. He now earns over $35,000 a month, and he does a seminar called How to Earn Over $200,000 a Year with Your Eyes Closed. He's been blind since he was 10. Okay, so all of these examples of what we see, other people's lives, we can use that as a platform to
whether it's your story or
somebody
somebody else's story, that's the example
story
that you're giving.
Yes, and people say
I don't have success yet.
Yes.
They're just getting started. I haven't had success. I've been involved for 6 months. I haven't had success, but I can tell this other story and I can say that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Dexter Yeager, who was a beer truck driver, and now 50% of Amway volume comes through his organization. Dexter was just an everyday guy who decided that he wanted to live a different life for himself and for his family. And so when we look at people who are the great performers in multi-level marketing, here's what I know that they have in common too. Not only are they great storytellers, but there was a deciding moment, and that moment when they said virtually, I've had it. I've had it. That's when people change. I used to live next door to a lady named Miss Lillian, and Mr. Marvin, every Friday night he would get drunk and beat her. And I saw her years later and said, how's Mr. Marvin doing? She said, I left him. I said, why? She said, I'd had it. I'd had it with Marvin beating on me. That's when people leave jobs and they say, well, where are you going? Away from here. I've had it. You know, I was working on a job where they paid me just enough to keep me from quitting it. I worked just hard enough to keep from getting fired. So finally, I said, you know what? I've had it. Going where I'm celebrated rather than tolerated. I've had it living and playing small. And so those kinds of examples and that kind of passion. People are not just looking for information. They're looking for personality and passion. They can get information on the internet. There are no secrets out here. You can just Google everything and find out what day the earth was made and the rock that broke Goliath's jaw. We can find everything right now. But personality and passion, that's what people want. That's what they buy into. Do you believe there's a difference between being in this business and this business being in you? That's what they feel. And the people that grow the large organizations, you can tell being in their presence that as much as they have chosen this, they were chosen for this kind of work. You've got to have a passion for people. You've got to believe in the product. You've got to believe in the industry. You've got to believe that you have it within yourself to become an entrepreneur, that it's possible that you can live your dream. That's why people say yes, that it's necessary, and that you are the driving force to make it happen, that it's you, that nobody can do it for you, nobody's going to care more about your dream than you, and that it's hard, that easy is not an option. That when you think about growing your organization, think it not strange that your family members and friends will say no. People who should be there to help you won't help you. In fact, they will discourage you. They will laugh at you. Oh, you're involved in some pyramid scheme. Here you go again. All of that's going to be a part of it. When you get on an airplane before they take off, they say fasten your seatbelt. Why? Because you're going to experience some turbulence before you reach a comfortable altitude. When you get involved in multi-level marketing, fasten your psychological seatbelts. Why? Because you're going to experience rejections and no and laughter and snickers from your family members and friends. Why? I don't know. That's just the way it is. It's possible you can live your dreams in spite of that. It's necessary for you to know that you're the one to make it happen, and that you become selective of people that you bring into the business. You don't want to convince people to do it, because person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. You want people who want more, not people who need more. And that it's you. You've got to be the driving force, and it's hard, and it's worth it. Decide now. Write down 5 reasons on why you won't give up. 5 reasons when you're facing the rejections and the no's, when people don't show up at the parties, when people don't keep their word. 5 reasons why you will stick in the game. I have a saying, when life knocks you down, trying to land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. Your reasons will help you get back up again. Nietzsche said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow. So it's possible you can build an incredible organization, make a great living for yourself. And it's necessary. If you're casual about your dream, as Bill Bailey said, you will end up a casualty. And it's you, and it's hard, and it's worth it. And once you create that momentum, it's done. Stick a fork in it. It's done.
So it's possible.
Yes.
The second one?
Yes, and the reason it's possible, what's possible for one is possible for all. If anybody built an incredible organization, went across the stage, and got a check because of their work and their effort, then it's possible that everybody seated there as witnesses can do it.
Right.
And that it's necessary.
It's necessary is number 2.
Yeah, you got to have a game plan. You got to be willing to stick it out. You got to be willing to persist. Og Mandino said you got to be willing to say, I will persist until I succeed. And the greatest salesman in the world. And you got to say to yourself your mantra, no matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. Because in the beginning, things look real good.
Right.
And then you have a dry spell. And then you start questioning yourself. And that's what over 85% of people do. And it's you. You got to take personal responsibility. You're going from being a volunteer victim of letting somebody tell you what time to be to work, how long your lunch break will be, what time to get off, how many days you can be sick out of the year, how many days you can go on vacation, got to ask for permission. You're going from that position of powerlessness and being weak, because most people have developed an addiction to powerlessness. That's why the majority of people you ask to come into this business will say no. They have developed an addiction to powerlessness. When you're working on somebody else's job, they are controlling your financial future. So you are different. You are not common. You are uncommon when you said yes to this dream.
Yeah, stop for a second. An addiction to powerlessness.
Yes.
I've never heard it said that way, and I think that's really interesting the way you say that, because we've been taught, we've been
groomed and taught to depend on a job, to look forward to a job. People looking for jobs in an economy where jobs are shrinking. We cannot produce enough jobs. The government cannot produce enough jobs to replace the jobs that are being eliminated through technology and cheap labor abroad. I can get a PhD in the Philippines for $500 a month. When I was a kid, I used to work in a bowling alley. They knocked the pins down, we jumped down, and we straightened the pins back up. Somebody invented a trade that put us out of business. I used to work on the elevator. What floor, please? And I would punch the elevator. No, they don't need that now. When I was in school, my girlfriend said, I want to be an operator. When you made a long distance call, you call an operator placed a call. Now you call direct. So technology is changing things, replacing whole industries. When the last time you went to the store and bought some envelopes and a stamp and some stationery and a pen to write a letter? We don't do that now. We text, we email. That's an industry that's eroding. I went to a school, Bill Gates School in Philadelphia. They don't have paper, all computer, a paperless school. That's different. When I was a kid, we carried books to school. So this is the era the late Peter Drucker calls the era of the 3 C's: accelerated change, overwhelming complexity, and tremendous competition. What we have in multi-level marketing is cooperation and collaboration, people working together in a community of achievers to help everybody win. That's the exciting thing, that when I help you win, then I win also.
You have a lot of quotes. Do you advise to have a lot of quotes to grow?
You know what? I just went downstairs to the hotel and asked them, what is my room number? I don't know where these quotes come from. I study a lot. When I first started out, I disciplined myself to learn about 3 quotes a day. Somebody taped me one time. I gave a lecture at a Manpower conference to Bishop T.D. Jakes, and they said I did over 215 quotes, and I never repeated myself. So I love quotes. It's a passion of mine, and so they come up when they come up at the appropriate time.
And you have your own quotes?
I have my own, and I study a lot of other individuals. And once I hear it, I repeat it to myself and reuse it in conversation. When I'm training speakers, I tell them the best speakers are the best listeners, to listen to things that touch your heart, and then use it in conversation over and over again, and then use it on stage when you're speaking to an audience.
Yeah, not only you and your thought, but also the people who are...
Everybody that's around you.
Great. And do you advise to people to write their own quotes?
I think that yes, you want to write, but sometimes you are saying them and you can't hear them because you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And so when I tell people, if you're speaking, to always record yourself, because there are things that's going to come up, inspiration, revelations you will receive. You say, whoa, where did that
it was
come
great.
from? That's right, yes. And so you want to record that.
I record everything.
Yes, that's good. That's a very good habit.
I have a weird question for you. Maybe the first time you have this question. According to you, how can we become a loser? Do you have advice?
I think that the key to being a loser,
yeah, very important,
is not loving and appreciating yourself.
Okay.
And allowing what other people think of you become more important to you than what you think of yourself.
Wow. It's a new advice. Great key.
Yeah. That we were born to do something. You're here to do a work. The two most important moments in our lives, it's been said, the day that we're born and the day that we realize why we were born. And if you don't know, if you want to live a life of misery, don't try and find out. But if you want to live a life that has meaning and value and a sense of direction, spend as much time as you possibly can to answer the question, why am I here? And not
so you wonder yourself a lot of
yes,
time.
yes. So don't ask what is the meaning of life. Ask what is the meaning of my life? What am I supposed to do? What is this work that I was chosen, that God saw something in you, that you were chosen, 1 out of 400 million sperm. He saw something in David. What was it that he saw? He saw something in Judy. He saw something in Les. There was something that caused us to be here. And I believe there's a work for us to do. That there's something that if we don't do it, then the world will be deprived. And finding out what that something is, that element, the element is when what you love to do and what you were born to do come together that will allow you to show up in life in a bigger way.
So our job is to find what we love.
What is it you love to do? That you weren't born to work for a living, but to live your making, and living your making will make your living.
How would you respond when someone's back is up against the wall, they're facing failure time and time again? Let me just share a little quick story. Years ago, I worked with Tony Robbins. In 1999, I was working with Tony Robbins. I thought, model one of the best. It was either you, Stephen Covey, or it was Tony Robbins. And at the time, Mike, I had a little connection into Tony Robbins. So I went with Tony Robbins.
Yes.
And I got so pumped. After a year of working there, I gave over 240 presentations. What a great training opportunity as I traveled the country and just was able to present so many times. And finally, he said on stage, talking about living your dreams, he said, "When would now be a good time?" He told the 5,000 people audience. And I remember I nudged my wife and I said, that's my calling, man. I'm making an excuse for myself. It's time for me to go live my dream. Anyway, long story short, I left the Tony Robbins organization. I called my parents. I said, "Mom, Dad, can we and the kids stay at your home for just a couple months as I do my first seminar?" Our home was actually rented out at the time because we were traveling so much, so I couldn't go there. And Mom and Dad said, absolutely. Well, those 2 months turned into 5 years in the basement of their house. And I thought, oh my gosh. And in my darkest moment, my wife says, "You should go get a job." I said, "But I hear Les Brown in me, right? My calling is to do this. There's gotta be a way. I can't just give up on the 10-yard line or whatever." And she said, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And I said, "Honey, I'm gonna go write a book." And she said, "You're gonna do what? Have you even read a book?" Anyway, I said, "I'm gonna go write a book." And we had a car repossessed, so we ended up with one card. And I decided I can't write where the kids are, so I drove down to the grocery store parking lot and I started to type. And 2 months later, If You Think You Can was written, and I'm telling you, it was published about 3 months later, And from then, my world in 2005 turned overnight. That book became an international bestseller back in 2005, and we just came out with the 15th version. It's coming out next week. And so it's just unbelievable. As I have always told audiences, believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, figure out the right strategy, but never give up. I don't know, how do you counsel people to respond to those kinds of challenges without giving up?
Well, first of all, we always have a choice. There's something in us, TJ, as you know, that's greater than anything that we face, even though we have no evidence to point to prove it. Like as I'm speaking to you now,
That's right.
I had to prepare myself mentally because I'm in pain as I speak to you. Cancer has eaten 40% of my T1 vertebrae and metastasized to the T2, to T3, and to the C7. I just spoke to an audience this morning, and I said, a doctor looked at me and he said 3 words that no one ever wants to hear. He said, "You have cancer." And the audience got quiet. And I said, "Sir, can you give me a second opinion?" He said, "Yes, and you're ugly too."
That's good.
I said, "No, he didn't." I said, I got issues. Here's the thing. Life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. So I could have said, and even now I can say, this pain is just too great. But my affirmation to myself, whenever I'm going through a tough time, and I'm a 27-year cancer conqueror, no matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. And I think that people who make it through the storms of life, and we're always going to have storms. Forrest Gump said life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. My book of life says that think it not strange that you will face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will, not you might, you will have tribulations. It's called life. And so what's key is to visualize and see yourself on the other side and hold that vision. He said, I'll give you all your eyes can see. Hold that vision and say to yourself, wow, that came out great. I made it through. I learned some things. Every day for 27 years, I've been saying, I thank God I'm cancer-free. And people say, wait a minute, you've been saying that for 27 years. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen. I said, no, that's not true. Number one, I'm still here. Augmendino say, persist until you succeed. Well, just think, 27 years. Look, when will a baby walk? It will walk when it walks. When will it talk? It will talk when it talks, and some talk sooner than others. And so many times we give up out of frustration and lack of patience. And to me, the people that make it through have a series of perseverance, persistence, and patience. And they show up with that every day until they get the desired results that they want. I know, I don't believe, I know that I'm going to be free of cancer, that this is not unto death. There's something that I have to align myself with because cancer cells gone crazy. And so as I'm working on myself and working on the goals and dreams and other areas of my life that I have not resolved yet, that I'm just persistent and I'll keep coming back again and again and again. And as I told my children, even a broke clock is right twice a day. That's time our brother's going to break through.
That is so awesome. Despite the cancer challenge, if you call it a challenge or not, you're still out.
Because you get to know things about yourself that you don't know.
Yeah, right.
That it introduces you to a part of yourself that you're not familiar with, that it helps you to begin to prioritize things and determine what's important, what's not important. There are things that I would get angry about that I just let pass. For instance, I was coming down the sidewalk yesterday when I arrived here in New Jersey, in Philadelphia, and a guy had his luggage on the sidewalk, and he saw me coming. All he had to do was just pull his luggage back so that I can come by. He refused to move it. He's standing there with his wife.
And so, which meant that I had to move my luggage and carry it into the streets and then get back on the sidewalk. And so he said, good, I'm glad you did that. And I said, thank you. And I got into the car that was waiting for me, and I said to my friend, I said, you know what? There was a time that I'd have whooped his ass. You know, I wanted to look at him at one time. I'd have said, you about to make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. I took my stuff on the sidewalk, and that wasn't enough. You wanted to taunt me. You wanted to tease me. You want to act like you punked me out. And I said, but at 74, no, because every emotion, I mean, I laugh a lot. Why? 1 minute of laughter boosts your immune system for over 24 hours. Think about that. 1 minute of laughter boosts your immune system for over 24 hours. So people who are watching us now, after we get through, they will get sick for 20 years. Now, 1 minute of anger weakens your immune system for 4 to 5 hours. Yeah. So I deliberately don't get angry. I choose not. Anger is a wind that blows out the lamp of the mind. I study psychoneuroimmunology. I know that the thoughts that we have, they create gene expressions. I know it creates a certain type of chemistry in our body that's toxic. And so I can't afford, as a cancer conqueror, to get angry. I choose not to go there. And we always have a choice. And I believe that the type of program that you have, it gives people the mental and emotional and psychological and spiritual muscle to have a clarity of mind to stand back and say, you know what? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to let this get to me. I'm better than this, and rise above it and move on with their lives.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing all that. You said, you put a little nugget in there I like, which I want to draw attention to, which you just said some people give up on their goals because they lack patience. And that made me think of the law of the harvest, which has 3 laws, right? You reap what you sow.
Yes.
Increased returns. You get more than you sow, right? And then the third thing is delayed gratifications. And so sometimes we give up on our goals because we haven't given time for those seeds to nourish and bear fruit, right? We give up a little bit too early. And anyway, any thoughts on that?
Yes, well, there are some things that you're pursuing. I see that we grow from people and from projects. I'll be a better person at the end of this program because of our communication. We grow from people and projects. And so when we have projects, they challenge us. Why? Because we always, if we want to grow and we're serious, choose projects that's beyond our comfort zone. Because in order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been.
That's good.
And so there are experiences that you're going to have in the process. Some things will happen to you, and some things will happen for you. And so I believe that those things that happen for us, that sometimes we're aware of, but most of the time we're not. That's what psychologists call your scotomas, your blind spots.
Right.
That a lady, she's an intuitive, and she wrote me a note when she found out that I was a 27-year cancer conqueror, and she says, this is not unto death to you. She said, search your heart and find out what's there. Because, and she was one of the people that gave me a book years ago that I read called Who's the Matter with Me? And what I realized, TJ, and this is the first time I ever talked about this publicly, that somewhere in me that I had not consciously recognized that I had anger at my birth mother and father. How can you bring someone in this world who didn't choose to be here and walk away? And even though we are told, forgetting those things which are behind, reaching forth unto those things which are before, I woke up in the middle of the night, and sometimes you can get a message from a movie.
Right.
And a movie with Tom Cruise, it's called Magnolia. And I never saw the whole movie, but there was a quote that woke me up around 3:15, I never forget. And the quote was, we might be through with our past, but our past is not through with us. And so I have unresolved stuff in me because for a period of time, I saw myself as have been given away. But there's been a shift in my consciousness. Now I look at my life and I realize I was chosen with love, that God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. And that's why I know, now that I've come to grips with, now that I had to get some help, and I believe, ask for help, not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong. Yes. And ask for help and don't stop until you get it. And I said, you said this is not unto death for me, search my heart. And I said, can you help me go there? And she did, because sometimes somebody can take you to a place within yourself that you can't go by yourself. And in that session, I realized the anger and the hatred that I had for two people that I don't even have faces for. I've never seen my birth mother or birth father. And so I had to resolve that. I had to forgive myself first and then forgive them. And that's when the healing takes place, because cancer, a cell's gone crazy. Yeah. And so now, as I move to a place of love, God is love, and he who dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in them. As I move to a place of love for them, that now I'm in harmony and in integrity with who I am as a person, and I have forgiven myself, I've forgiven them, and I'm living this mission of making the world a better place than how I found it, of being a source of light and hope and inspiration for people.
And you're doing an awesome job. There is no long-term benefit for being a grudge holder, holding resentment toward people. I always tell people say, well, do things bug you? Well, things bug me, but listen, yeah. I don't live there. And I always tell people, I let things roll off my back. You can criticize me all day long, and you know what? I'm not going to internalize that.
Yes.
Right? Because I know who I am, and I'm thankful for who I am. Anyway.
Yes. And that is real, because the stuff we take on is that hating someone is like drinking poison and say, okay, now you're going to die. No, it's not going to happen like that. Yes, no. We all need coaching on how to let some things go. One of the things that I teach is let go or be dragged. That there are certain things that you know that you need to let go of. Otherwise, it's going to compromise your power and it's going to drag you down. And it takes time to do that.
It does. It does. So in your book, I remember this story.
Yes.
Such a great book. Anyway, you walked in, I think it was to a junior high or an elementary school, and you said, there's greatness in this room. If you're here, would you please stand?
Yes.
And you had to say it over and over. And then
Yes.
one young person, didn't they stand up and they said, here I am.
Yeah, here I am. And that young man, I'm working with him today.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, he's been with me since that time. He is an attorney, and he also worked with youth. We go to prisons and juvenile detention centers together. Yes, and he's truly manifesting his greatness. And I'm proud to say I'm one of his mentees, because it's a seesaw relationship. At first, I started out being his mentor, but he has incredible skills with the millennials and with technology that I don't have. Oh. And so he's teaching me how to connect with them and how to use technology to further the work that I have, that I'm doing, and to create non-performance income. So this thing called life, I believe that you're never too old to learn, and you're never too young to teach. And he's teaching me, and I'm proud of it.
That's awesome.